No, honestly, as the host of Exploring Washington State, I'm going to be remiss and say I don't know where Acme, Washington is.
Ooh.
Welcome to the Exploring Washington State podcast. Here's your host, Scott Cowan.
All right, we're going to get started. My guest today is Kate Voss. Kate and I have been talking for a couple of minutes where I was explaining how I'm out of it today, so I'm warning everybody. No, just kidding. Kate has agreed to be on the show and to share her musical journey story with us. So, Kate, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to ask you to kind of tell our audience a little bit of your background.
Okay. Hi, Scott.
And you can go back as far as you want.
Ooh.
Yesterday or, just whatever. So
Well, I've been very fortunate to have been in the Seattle music scene for the last 20 years. I moved to Seattle when I was 18 and did a lot of music before then, in high school, and grew up, singing and playing piano in our church in little old Acme, Washington. Do you even know where that is, Scott?
So when I think of Acme, I think of the old Roadrunner and Coyote cartoons. I'm sorry that I'm that old. No, honestly, as the host of Exploring Washington State, I'm going to be remiss and say I don't know where Acme, Washington is.
Ooh, well, I was born and raised in Acme, Washington. And it is a tiny town off of Highway 9. So you do know where Cedar Woolley is?
I do know where Cedar Woolley is.
Okay. Well, if you go north on Highway 9 from Cedar Woolley, you will drive right through Acme. There's no stop light, nothing. So if you blink, you will miss it. So I grew up there, and I, started playing music when I was pretty young. My dad was a musician, and he encouraged all of me and my 5 other siblings to play music. And so after moving to Seattle, fast forward, when I was 18, I started playing in a few bands and then began teaching piano and voice at Westside Music Academy, which is still up and running. They've been going strong for, I think, 22 or 23 years. And then took the plunge to be a full-time artist almost 8 years ago with my husband, Jason Goessl, on guitar, and we're still going strong. It's pretty awesome life, very different than the before times, but
right, so
pretty grateful.
You've already got questions now. So why would you want to leave beautiful Acme, Washington? I mean, in all seriousness, since I don't know much about it, and you're described it as no stoplight. How many did you go? Is there a high school there? Did you go to school in Acme, or did you have to go to Cedar Woolley? Or
well, there's an elementary school in Acme, so I went there. Okay. To start, and then there's a high school and middle school in Deming, Washington, famous for the Deming logging show, and that was about an hour bus ride for me. To get to school. And so I went to junior high and high school there. Acme has got about 250 people living there, which is nice. If you are into that kind of small town thing, which, I am. I feel like I've come full circle now, just being older. But, when I was younger, I definitely was like, get me out of here. Like, I want to see the world and live in the big old city. So one takeaway from your childhood, then I'd like to know, what was something cool about Acme as a kid? Oh, well, we lived on a couple acres. And so we had like lots of forest, and we had a pond, and I had countless forts out in the woods that we would build. And I have, like I said, 5 siblings. So there was just a lot of companionship with my brothers and sisters, and we would play outside all the time. Yeah, it was really fun.
So at 18, you moved to Seattle. There couldn't have been any culture shock there coming from, 2 acres of woods and pond to whereabouts in Seattle did you first live? What areas of town?
Well, I landed in West Seattle, which is arguably the best Seattle, as they say. And I lived there for many years. I at one point I ventured out and I got a studio apartment in Capitol Hill because I thought that's where all the cool people lived. And so I wanted to be cool, and realized after, my car got broken into and my rent was super expensive. I was like, I maybe not be that cool.
Okay. All right.
So I moved back to West Seattle. And then
whereabouts in the Junction area?
Yeah. Okay. I lived right in the Junction for a long time. And then I hopped over to White Center for a little while. And then when my husband and I got together, I moved all the way to Ballard.
Oh my gosh.
So I lived there for a while, and I worked at the Sloop Tavern. Have you been there?
I have not been there.
Oh, no. You have to go. It is the greatest. It's the oldest bar in Ballard.
Okay. Why do I not know about this place? Because I used to go. Obviously, if you look at us, I'm obviously much older than you. We used to go to like the Ballard Firehouse, or why do I always blank on that? Is it the Underground that was there?
Oh, I don't know.
It was this really cool venue down some stairs in this interesting building, and I'll find it. Every time I think about it, I can't remember it. And then somebody goes, "Oh, it was called something," and I'm like, and it just flies out my brain. But we used to go to a lot of places in Ballard, but I've never heard of that. So where in Ballard is it?
It's kind of off the beaten path. So you've got Ballard Avenue, which has like the Tractor and the Sunset and all these awesome venues and bars. But then if you're on Market Street and you're heading toward Golden Gardens, it's all the way towards, do you know where the Taco Time is there, or the climbing gym?
Do I look like I know where climbing gym is? Taco Time, of course, but climbing gym? No.
Oh my gosh. It's down there towards Golden Gardens. It's not all the way at the end on the water, but it's across the street from the Lock Spot, which is also
I know I've driven past it. I know I have it. Yeah. Okay. So you work there?
I worked there for like 10 years. That's actually where Jason and I started our relationship. He would show up on my shift on Sundays, and he just started calling me Sundae. So that's where Sundae of Sundae Mr. Goessl came from.
Okay. All right. So these are cool stories. All right. So I lived in West Seattle for a while too, and I enjoyed living there. And I would probably agree with you, much to the dismay of many other people, that I think West Seattle is kind of the coolest part of Seattle.
It's pretty great.
It's a pretty cool place. So while you were working, you were doing music. So what sort of, because like if I'm looking at your website, which is over here on another computer, so I have to be rude and look over here.
That's okay.
You guys are both of you were highly prolific in multitudes of acts. So have you always been that way? I mean, where you're doing a bunch of different music concurrently?
Well, kind of, yes. I know Jason has just kind of always, he's a musical genius. He wouldn't ever say that about himself. He's very... I
think his website does say that, though. I am a musical genius. I think I saw that. I'm just going to throw that out
there. But he's like, I've never really heard anybody play guitar like Jason, and the variety of styles that he is able to execute is just kind of astounding. Like, obviously Seattle is full of insanely talented musicians, and I think Jason's just kind of up there, and his versatility is just kind of unheard of. Like, he can play Brazilian music on his nylon string guitar.
So let me stop you.
Yeah,
I saw that. And so what is Brazilian music, and why does it get its own category?
Well, it's music that comes from Brazil, if we want to talk semantics here, but it's a very specific style. There's a lot of really amazing composers coming out of Brazil, like oh my gosh, now I am blanking. Antonio Carlos Jobim, just to name one. A lot of salsa, some sambas and bossas and things like that. So there's a very specific like rhythmic pattern that Brazilian music has. And then also just on that nice like nylon string guitar is just kind of that quintessential Brazilian sound. And a lot of like he used to sing, or he played with a singer who would sing in Portuguese, Michel Nevedo. And that was just such a fabulous duo. And that's actually the first time I heard Jason play was when he was doing a duo with Michel. And so that's just a very specific type of guitar playing on a specific type of guitar. And a lot of people get really good at that, and that's what they do. But Jason is really good at that, as well as playing, you know, surf music and jazz and rockabilly and country music. Like I'm astounded at his versatility and like mastery of these styles that people, you know, get really good at this style. And that's kind of what they do. He's able to do it all. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, he's always kind of been sought after because of that. So he's been in several different types of bands, and he has, let me tell you, he has a guitar for every single band that he was in. So yeah, that's his lifelong story is like, he's just always been doing that. And for me, I've been, you know, interested in all different kinds of music as well. Earlier growing up and things, I was really into country and pop. So I did a lot of that. And then when I moved to West Seattle, I started taking vocal lessons from Greta Matassa, who's an internationally acclaimed jazz vocalist and teacher. And she is really the one who opened up a world of jazz to me, which, you know, I knew about jazz, but I didn't really know much about it or how to sing in a jazz style. And she really helped me develop my voice, and fell in love with jazz at 20 and just really haven't. I mean, I still do other things, but it's kind of my main passion now.
Okay. And jazz is a catch-all. To me, jazz is a catch-all name. There's so many different genres within it, so that even though it's only 4 letters, it's a huge word.
Yes, very much. Like,
so let me get you to narrow it down.
Okay.
You know what for those of us that don't know jazz very well or music very well, sometimes it helps to ask you to compare yourself to a well-known performer in that genre, which is not fair.
Sure.
But it's my show and I can be unfair. So who would you model yourself after when you were getting started? How's that? Where did you get inspiration?
Oh, that's a great way to put it. Well, Ella Fitzgerald is just a great example of somebody who I admire. I would love to be able to sing like Ella and have been striving to sing like her since day one. And she's also an artist that can kind of reach over and grab people who maybe don't like jazz, quote unquote, because she's just such a playful and enamoring singer. So Ella Fitzgerald is definitely one of my biggest inspirations. And I got really hooked on a lot of the older jazz, like a lot of vintage stuff, 50s and before. So Anita O'Day is one of my biggest inspirations as well. Just her phrasing is just very different than anyone else I've heard. And people, I mean, I'm not saying I sound like Billie Holiday, but people have said that I sound like Billie Holiday. And that's really just another kind of phrasing thing, and also the timbre of my voice. I don't have a big, huge, powerhouse kind of bring the house down kind of voice. It's more of a softer, subtler style. So those are my top 3. I think I've studied jazz piano as well, and I think that the thing that kind of hooked me with jazz as a big generalized genre is just the ability to improvise and kind of sing what I wanted to sing instead of being like, this is how the song goes and you have to sing it like this. Right. And I've just kind of carried that with me, even into other genres. And I've been borderline criticized sometimes for being too much of a jazzy singer in other genres, but I don't care. I like it.
Well, I think, with any art form, sure, there are people that could copy, a guitar player note for note, play it without, technically they can play it, but there's always this lack. Just because you can play the note or sing the song verbatim, if you will. I always like it when, I don't want to say always. I find it interesting, creatively interesting when a performer makes a song their own.
Yeah.
If it's not an original piece, if you could sound like Ella note for note and regurgitate, don't get me wrong, you'd make a fortune sounding like Ella Fitzgerald note for note. Can you imagine what your career would be like? Jeez. But taking one of her songs and using that as a jumping off point, is, I think, pretty cool. And I agree with you. I think Ella is a very easy way for somebody to listen to jazz for the first time and that's not familiar with it and go, oh, there's something here for me. Whereas, other performers aren't quite as accessible to the novice ear. Sure.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Do you know who McCoy Tyner is?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Has it been 15 years now? Probably 15 years ago, I was chauffeuring and I got to pick McCoy Tyner up at the airport.
Whoa.
And take him to his hotel. And then take him from his hotel to his performance at the Moore Theater.
Awesome.
Okay. And so the company I was working for, they told me, okay, this is who you're going to take. So I went and looked him up. I didn't know who he was. And I was listening to some of his music. Oh, this is kind of cool. This is interesting. And so I pick him up and I pick up his bass player for the show at the airport. And we're in this Lincoln town car, not like a stretch limo, but just a town car. Right. And so I've got the guy's stand-up bass kind of wedged in the front seat of the car, and I think he was pretty nervous that it was out of his hands. And they're talking about, I guess McCoy played with Coltrane. And they were kind of describing going across America in a station wagon. Wow. And I'm listening to this, kind of just as I'm driving, and behind me they're talking, and I'm listening to this story, and it was just fabulous. Well, anyway, I drop him off at the hotel, and he asked me if I wanted to go to the show. And I'm like, I can't, because the company kind of had a policy. We couldn't take gifts like that. Oh. And I'm like, oh, and he's like, well, that's okay. And so anyway, so the show, he goes and does his show, and I'm parked in the Moore Theater, the alley in the back of the Moore Theater.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm parked back there with the Lincoln town car, and, I'm wearing the chauffeur's garb, and there's this 10-year-old, I'm going to guess the kid was 10, 12 tops, with his mom, with some albums. And they come up to me and they go, "Are you here to pick up Mr. Tyner?" And I'm like, "Yes." And do you think we could get an autograph? I said, I don't know. So anyway, we chatted for a couple seconds. Anyway, he comes out the stage door off the back, and I come up to get him because, how old? He's in his late 70s, early 80s at that time. Yeah. And I said, "There's this young, I don't do autographs." And I'm like, "Come on, it's just a kid." And there's, it's, and he's like, "I don't do autographs." And I said, "He's got your albums there." And he goes, "Oh." And so I kind of, he wasn't being rude. He was just kind of sharing the story I don't do. Right. Mm-hmm. So I got him over there, and the kid was just like, almost crying. He was so happy. Oh. And he was a total fan, had all the albums, and they ended up talking for like 15 minutes. It was really kind of fun.
Wow.
But the story there. So anyway, when I dropped him off at his hotel, we shook hands, and I just realized, I was shaking his instrument. Mm-hmm. I mean, his fingers, I was like, we're like, careful, very cautious. But the point is that for me is like, I went down the rabbit hole of some of his music. Mm-hmm. And I think that, and I'm not a performer. And for that trust me, we're all grateful. But I like the fact that you reference these icons, and I've listened to your stuff, and not all of it. I can't say that.
What are you doing with your life? Come on.
Yeah, but I like the fact that I like what you guys are doing. It's kind of cool.
Thank you.
And anyway, I'm rambling here in taking over your words, but I just think it's kind of cool that you are too jazzy. If you want to come back and say, if people say that about you, no, please don't change. I like that delivery and that you're doing that whenever you're doing. So there you go.
Thank you.
For 5 minutes, I just rambled and complimented you and back. Okay.
Well, I agree. I just played the more actually, which is funny that you brought it up. I just did the Patsy Cline tribute show on Friday. Wait.
Okay. How'd that go?
Friday? 2 Fridays ago. I can't remember. Okay. It was great.
Yeah.
I'd never played the more before, so that was really awesome. And now I know McCoy Tyner played the more too. Wow. I could say I shared a stage with
Bob Weir's played the Moore Theater.
Oh, nice.
Do you know who Bob Weir is?
I know the name, but I can't. I don't know who's popping up.
Bob Weir is was the rhythm guitarist for the Grateful Dead.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And we had a guest on, I don't know, a while ago, and he's a bagpipe player.
Nice. Was it Kevin?
No, it wasn't Kevin.
Okay.
And anyway, I go to the guy's website, right? Here's his bagpipe player's website. And I go to it, and there's a picture of him standing there playing his bagpipes on stage with Bob Weir and Don Was.
Wow.
And it was at the Moore Theater.
Nice.
And I'm like, you got to play with Bob Weir because I'm a...
You're a deadhead.
Yeah, I'm a deadhead. And I'm like, but the more... and it all makes sense now, right? It's Jerry Garcia band art back there. So anyway, the more is cool. So I normally ask these questions later, but since you just kind of brought that up, I'll go here for a second.
Okay.
As a performer,
yeah,
in the Washington State area, because this is all about Washington State.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite venue to perform at?
Well, I mean, I love the Triple Door. Okay. That's probably my favorite place to go see a show.
Okay, as well.
To perform.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they've got just great sound. It's a great room. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's like, I do love, that people can eat and drink there. Because I feel like that makes just for a fun time, I guess, for the audience. Like it's like I'm a pretty casual performer anyway. Like I call people out, I engage with the audience. I use a lot of spontaneity and improvisation, not only in my singing, but in like what's happening around me. So to have people like living it up out there, it's pretty fun.
Okay.
I mean, just now playing the Moore was, obviously kind of a dream come true as well.
Okay.
But I think the Triple Door's got to be my favorite.
Any others? Any other strong contenders?
Ooh, in Washington. Oh man, I'm blanking again. There's got to be tons of awesome places. I mean,
well, how about this? In Washington, is there a venue that you haven't played that you'd like to play?
Let's see, the Mount Baker Theater in Bellingham. I would love to play there. So if anybody's listening, is booking there, book Sundae Mr. Goessl. And maybe the Fox Theater in Spokane. That would be just a total dream. That's a beautiful vintage place.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of smitten with vintage style. I'm sure you've noticed that off of my website too. Like I just love that kind of whimsy of vintage style, vintage hair, vintage makeup, vintage clothes. Like that look is just really special to me. And so, playing at vintage theaters that are kept up is just kind of my favorite place to play.
So what about the Paramount?
Oh yeah, the Paramount for sure. I guess I just never I guess I shouldn't put limits on myself. I'm just like, I could never play there, but I could play there.
That's a beautiful venue. That's a cool venue.
The
Fox is nice. I have not been to the Mount Baker, but okay. Now I'm off my question routine. So
sorry, I'm keeping you on your toes, Scott.
Yeah, well, no, see, I don't improvise as well. Well, let's just jump ahead to 8 years ago when you guys decided to go full-time artist.
Yeah.
That had to go without a flaw. Super easy. Everybody does it.
No problems at all. Yeah.
Gigs never get canceled. Nothing ever goes wrong. But in all seriousness, what sort of challenges have there been as a full-time performer?
Well, I would say the biggest challenges, and I'm sure every full-time artist or working artist would agree with me, would be the financial aspect. Okay. When you are doing something as a part-time, a hobby, a passion project, you're able to kind of keep that project as, your passion and do it the way you want to do it. But when you bring it into as a full-time profession, you have to come at your art as a business, or it's not going to work unless you're, a benefactor of, lots of money, which we aren't. And so I think that kind of right out of the gate, both Jason and I, we're not spring chickens, and we weren't 8 years ago either. So, I had just turned 30. I mean, looking back, that's pretty young, but
that's pretty young. Sorry. It's pretty young.
30 is young, but it's old enough to, I'd had a decade long teaching career, and I'd been in, just tons of bands and performing around. And I was old enough to know that, we weren't going to do this one thing and be famous and make music the rest of our lives. Like we knew enough to know that, we weren't gonna, some scout wasn't going to come see us and we're going to be famous one day. Like, we had to have a business plan and a way to move forward with our music as a business to have success. And I think that, that learning curve of having it be like this fun thing that we do, once a week, to we need to be performing 5 nights a week. We need to make X amount of money to pay our bills, and we need to make sure we have a marketing strategy, and what are we doing for our taxes, and how are we classified, as a business to, get a business loan, or what do we need for our business, and how are we moving forward with, X, Y, and Z. Do we book out, a month away, or do we book out a year away? Who's going to manage our tours? What's the itinerary for the tours? How many places can we stay for free because we don't have any money? How are we staying healthy and positive during all of this? And how do we get backing? And at the beginning, we did Kickstarter to do our first album, which we released 7 years ago. So that was kind of the jump start to our touring. And, we started out just asking friends and places that we knew to book us. And we didn't have any sort of minimum, we would play for tips and, try to get a guarantee here and there. And we would. And, the evolution from starting there, taking every single gig, working every single day to make it work, to where we are today, we are still working every single day. We don't really take days off. But anybody who owns their own business knows that you don't get to have days off, really. But you make it work because it's your passion also. But,
well, and you don't have to be there from 9 to 5.
No, you don't.
You don't have a
get
commute
to pick your own hours.
Right.
But sometimes it's like, ooh, this thing has to be done, and my boss is going to be really mad at me if I don't get it done. And my boss is myself. So it's tricky. But, we've built something, and we started at it with a business mind, even though obviously this is all we want to do is perform music. And the most fun part of the whole job is that we do get to perform music. But the admin side, I think, is something that is kind of underestimated with a lot of people, because I've had so many people ask me, like, how do you tour so much? And how are you, I mean, we make 6 figures as a business in music, which is astounding to me. Like when we first started, it wasn't like that. And we've built it up. And that's just like kind of the biggest advice I give people. Like, you have to look at it as a business, and how are you moving your business forward, rather than, I just want to play my music. Like if you want to just play your music, you can do that. There's a lot of places in Washington to do that. But if you want to have it be your full-time career, you have to look at it differently.
So I got a couple questions out of that.
Okay.
So do you have somebody booking gigs for you, or are you guys doing all that?
We do about 95% of our booking. Oh. And we have a couple of agencies based out of the Midwest that do booking for us. But for the most part, it's been me, and Jason does some booking as well, but it's mostly me. And we do, we've done like booking conferences in the past and showcased it, like Arts Northwest and a Montana Performing Arts Consortium and things like that get us linked up with like artist agencies that present music or art and other forms to theaters around the Pacific Northwest.
Okay. So when you got started, you said you would work for tips, no minimum type thing.
Yeah.
Without necessarily naming a venue, you can name the venue. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. You can name the venue if you want, or the event. It's fine, but you don't have to.
Okay.
There must have been a train wreck or two in there.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. All the time.
Any bad stories you want to share that are somewhat humorous now?
Oh, man.
Looking back on them?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's this one, oh my gosh. We actually never ended up playing the gig because it was such a train wreck before we even got there. But it was like this sandwich company that reached out to us from Utah that was like, oh, it looked like they did some research. Like they knew we were coming through. And they were like, oh, we want you to play for our sandwich shop. And we're kind of like, okay. And they were like, we pay $150 for like 3 hours. And we're like, okay. And so we're trying to figure it out, but they only would book us if we had filled out their online form, and we had to link. I can't remember if we had to link our bank account to them, like so that they could pay us directly, or what it was. But I was kind of like, this sounds kind of shady. Like, I don't know if I want to do this. And then like I researched it and it seemed legit. And I actually had other friends who'd performed for them. But for some reason, like we just kept missing each other. And I realized that I'd spent like 3 hours just trying to fill out the damn form to play this stupid gig that I was just like, oh my God. Like, and I just was like, I'm done. And then that was kind of my epiphany of just being like, I don't want to do shows for that long, for that little money anymore. And then I decided to raise our minimum to, I think it was like 200. I was like, I'm going up to 200. Like it has to be at least this. And then later on, it was like, okay, 300. And then later on, it's like, okay, it's 500. Now I'm like, okay, it's $2,500. If you guys want to hire us, like this is how much we cost. And we bring the professionalism, trust me. So, and that just also weeds out any weird scammy type of people who are like, oh, like I want to book you. I'm like, nope. Don't waste my time.
So it's so funny because, creative type people, first off, you sound like you guys have, your financial head on your shoulders, which is not always common with creative type folks.
Yes. We're lucky I have a partner who helps.
But you probably know a lot of acquaintances that are creative and they just don't have that financial savvy, and that's no judgment, just kind of reality.
Sure.
And what I've always watched is people like that, and they let's say they're comfortable billing at 150, and you talk to them and you say, you really should bill 300. Oh no, I can't. And you have to drag them kicking and screaming to get them up to 200, and then incrementally. And honestly, I think I like what you're saying about, here's our rate. This is what we do. This is what you'll get. Here's our contract. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Next.
Yeah.
So you're handling 95% of your booking and scheduling. How far out are you guys booking? And that's probably a tough question because they're COVID.
Yeah.
But in a non-pandemic world, what's ideal for you?
Ideally, we like to book about a year to 18 months out.
Wow.
And that just kind of helps us plan for what we're doing, our routing, where we can find, the anchor gigs that are going to help us, go this way, or decide which way we're going to go and how we're going to do it. And, you're right. This last 18 months has been just brutal with booking and then canceling and then booking again with hopeful eyes and then canceling again. And then, and it's unfortunate. A lot of establishments have gone out of business and, just aren't functioning anymore because for example, we had this, performance scheduled in Florida for January. And we were a little okay, do you think this is going to happen? And, they reached out just a couple of days ago to say it's not happening, mostly because some of our board members have COVID and are in the hospital. And, the other remaining members are just this is too much. It's too much to do as a volunteer board member to make these things happen. And, that to me is super, super sad because a lot of the arts programming is just being completely squashed out because, this a never ending pandemic.
Right. And that's kind of how it feels here too.
Yeah.
So how did you guys adapt? I've seen some of the things you're doing. So you guys seemed pretty creative though, as a way of keeping the microphone on, if nothing else, in performing.
Yeah. We just,
we have a guest. Who's our guest?
Oh, this is my dog, Jackie Osasas. Of course, she has a pun name because I like puns.
There we go. Okay.
So we decided, when everything kind of hit, and our album release for our latest album was scheduled at the Triple Door on March 19th, 2020. So that was a real supreme bummer to have to cancel that show. Yeah. And that whole week we were just holding on because it was that week of are things going to happen? Are things shutting down? What's happening? What is this virus? And we ended up linking up with Loudswell, which is a live stream platform based out of Washington, to do a live stream version of our album release instead, which was great. It wasn't what we'd prepared for, but we made it work. And then we just kind of decided from then on out, we're however long this is going to last, we need to outlive it, and we need to figure out how to continue our business and our life and our lifestyle and our livelihood. And so, we were living in our RV at that time, and our friend who we parked in her driveway, shout out to Carly, thank you. She was like, well, you have wheels, you have your own sound system. You've done these outdoor concerts before. Why don't you just go around and do these curbside concerts for people outside that are safe and people can distance and do their thing? And I was just blown away by how many people responded to that. And we ended up doing this is our second tour, second summer of doing curbside concert tours, where we've done, probably 80 concerts on the road, just pulling up in our RV, doing a show and having it be socially distant and safe. It's been really awesome. So that's been one of the things that we've been doing. And then we've also been doing dedication videos. So people will get a hold of us and ask us to do a specific song, usually for anniversaries or birthdays. We did some for graduation, and I've actually done a few memorials as well, where we will record the song of their choice and do a video of us doing their song, and then interject photos and little videos and little messages and stuff from the giver to the givee. And that has been also just awesome.
So did you have the video editing skills to do this at first?
Nope.
Okay. So
one of the gained skills over COVID for sure.
Okay. So you now can add, singer videographer to your resume.
Yes. And we've been recording all of our we've been doing this single project where we release a single a month, and we've been recording while we're on tour with our universal audio thing. And Jason's been teaching me how to record as well. So we've both been engineering and producing just a lot of stuff. I mean, normally we do like 250 shows a year. So, we've dropped our performance down.
Wait a second. I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, you guys were doing 250 shows a year?
Yes. Sometimes more, but that was the average.
Wow. So what I don't understand here, and this is we're getting away. We're talking business now, not music, but how about the business of music? How are you managing to coordinate the administrative part of that, much less the performance part of that?
Well, like I said, I don't take days off.
I understand that, but I mean, my gosh, To perform 250 shows, you booked more than you had more than 250 conversations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody reached out to you and said, "Hey, we'd like you to play our sandwich shop." And you say, "Sorry, no." That took time. So you must be remarkably, brutally efficient.
Well, I think that is one of the skills that I've developed over the last 8 years of doing this, is just, being really succinct and to the point. I mean, I feel like I could give classes in how to write an email, just to be like, hey, here's what we need. Here are the things. And can you please get back to me by this date? And it's like, I've learned that it's really quite amazing what you can accomplish when you ask for what you want. And that was something I didn't know how to do before this. Like I was the one kicking and screaming, going, "Oh, I can't charge $300. I'm not worth that much." And I learned that I was worth way more than that, and that the skills that I can bring to this business that we're pushing through is pretty valuable at this point. So
that's super impressive. So these curbside concerts. Go back. Sorry, grinding the gears here. How long are they lasting typically?
We try to do about an hour-long concert, and that seems to be kind of the right amount of time for people, the audience. It's interesting, for a while we were like, oh, we haven't been performing much lately. Like, it seems so weird to be performing again, but people haven't been out to a concert in a long time either. And so people are having a hard time knowing what to do socially, and oh, where do I sit? And do I get close? How do I do this? People are very awkward coming back into the live music and event scene. So we the hour long is kind of the right on the money, because people will start getting antsy and they're like, oh, I have other things I need to do, and oh, I've been around people, and that's usually what we end with. But there's some clients that are like, we want to do a 2-hour show with an intermission, or it kind of depends on who we're performing for. If it's for a family, we can do longer because, they're around each other, but block parties are different. I don't know. So.
Well, it's funny. I'm laughing because we had some friends of ours that used to be in Washington. They moved down to Arizona, and so they came back up for the Labor Day weekend, and they were playing at this private party in the Cle Elum area. And I didn't realize it until you just said it, because they were also playing the next day over in Seattle. And normally I would be like, well, let's go to both. And I was like, yeah, I don't, and I didn't realize at the time, yeah, you're right. I'm not used to it. I'm not, who are all these people and why are they around me?
Yeah, I feel like people are getting socially like inundated with like just, people and events, and like people are getting overwhelmed very easily. And I mean, myself included, like anytime I'm around a lot of people, I'm like, I just feel like my energy gets sucked and I just want to go back home and put my sweatpants on like most people.
Right.
Well, who was what was the music you were going to see?
Do you know, his name is Steve Pearson?
Steve Pearson. I don't think
he was in a Seattle band in the late 70s and early 80s called the Heats. And then the next band out of that was called the Range Hoods. And so I've watched Steve play since 1980.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, 40 plus years. And there's lots of long, I mean, we could now talk an hour about that topic, but yeah, they put together this impromptu show. And do you know a band called the Pop-Offs? Mark Memolo.
I've heard of the Pop-Offs, yes.
Yeah, so the guitar player and the bass player were, and who I've never seen before, they were there. And so,
nice.
So Steve and his wife were playing and singing, and then their friend who's a drummer in the Cle Elum area, and then another guitar player out of Yakima. Anyway, it was just at this guy's farm on the river, and it was a great place, right? It was wonderful, but at the same time, I was like, it was exhausting.
Yeah,
it was immensely exhausting for me.
Yeah,
and
I think you are in the same boat as everyone in the whole U.S. Like, it's just exhausting doing things that we all used to kind of take for granted, and now we're like, oh my gosh, like it's a lot.
We're out of shape, social shape.
Yeah.
So I like this idea though of the curbside concerts. That sounds kind of fun and in a neat way for you guys to perform and make a living.
Yeah, it's been great.
Did you do much recording? I mean, are you guys? Yeah, you said you're putting out a song a month, but pre-pandemic, how often were you putting out music?
Well, I mean, we have 6 albums out right now. Okay. So it's been, the first one we released 7 years ago. So we're working on our 7th right now. So it's kind of been one a year.
Okay.
But with the singles project, it's feeling like so much more. I don't know. We've never worked an album like this, like releasing it one by one and coming out the songs kind of very, very differently. Because this whole project kind of came about because we got a lot of really good requests from our Patreon members. And so we were like, oh, let's just like make some fun singles. And we got linked up with Color Red, which is a record label and distribution company based out of Denver. And we hopped on their label this year, which is really awesome. And so they were like, oh, we want you to release a single a month. We're like, oh my gosh, we're already doing that. So our projects kind of aligned and so it's been really fun just kind of working one song at a time and really diving in and making it really sound the way we want. I feel like in the past when we've gone and we've recorded mostly with Rob Davidson over at Nell's Motel, which is an offshoot of Avast in Ballard. And we love working with Rob and we love his studio, but we allot ourselves, these 5 days in the studio and we have to get crank out, 12 songs in these 5 days. And it's like, sometimes I'm sick, or sometimes, we don't feel like doing it. And, it's just hard to give yourself that time and then be like, okay, you have to have it done by this time, because, studio time is costly and we're on a deadline. I mean, one time we recorded at a different studio and came to another studio, and the other studio engineers like, we can't use any of your lead vocals. And I'm like, that's 12 songs. And I recorded them all over in one day, which was insane. So all of that is to say, it's really nice to just focus on one song at a time and really be choosy about, how we're arranging it and how we're mixing it. And so far, I've been just totally smitten with all of these songs that we didn't even pick. Like, there are other people who are like, we want to hear you do this. And I'm like, okay, let's try it. And it's been really fun.
So do you guys do a lot of, recording equipment's gotten so, I don't want to say cheap, but, GarageBand is pretty powerful for free.
Sure. Yes, it's gotten very accessible, I think, is what you're trying to say.
So do you do a lot of do you work these songs through, like, recording them on your computer and running them through, say, I'll just say GarageBand or Pro Tools or something like that? Or
kind of, yes. So we're working in Logic, and and basically we both, and we bought a couple of really fancy recording microphones, which was part of our big purchases from last year. We just needed to do a big upgrade on a bunch of equipment. So we got a new laptop, we got new recording microphones, and
just out of curiosity, what did you guys get?
We got the Atlantis mic. I'm trying to remember what it's actually called. Anyway, it's an Atlantis that is.
You didn't know this would be like 20 questions the hard way for you, did you? Didn't prep you for that. Sorry.
That's okay. It's like a really fancy condenser mic, like that will pick up just all of the little nuancy things, which I really like. Just as I said before, I'm just a very subtle singer, and so having that ability to kind of pick up the little tiny things is awesome. And then we also picked up an Ear Trumpet Lab mic, which are you familiar with them?
I'm not.
They're a company out of Portland, and they get ready for this. It's the most Portland thing ever. They make microphones out of old bicycle parts. And so
since this is an audio show, folks, I'm making a really puzzled look on my face right now, just to give you context. What? Okay, you please elaborate.
So they use like these old. I'm trying to see if it's in here right now. Like, I want to show it to you. Anyway, you'll have to look it up. Your Trumpet Lab. So they use like these like recycled like bike parts to make these really vintage looking mics, and the technology is kind of vintage too. It's like those the type of mics that just pick up like a trio of singers, for instance. So like people can stand around the mic and kind of hear the sound equally. So it's used a lot in acoustic music, so that people can like hear the mandolin player or whatever it is. But I just realized like I really kind of like the quality of sound that comes out of the Ear Trumpet Lab, and it also just looks really cool. So we use it a lot for our live streaming and things like that.
All I can think of is it's going to have like Schwinn on it somewhere or something.
There's not like a bike chain around it.
That'd be kind of funny, a couple of pedals on it or something. I will go look that up. And I have not heard of them. That's kind of cool though. I like that. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty niche company. Like, we bought the Myrtle. That's kind of their main model. And I think that the Myrtle, I know it's even like a vintage name. I love it.
Yeah, I know, the Myrtle.
And like, I think we have like microphone number like 8,214 or something. So they're not like a crazy huge company selling millions.
Not like Shure.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Wow.
Or Sennheiser. Shut up.
Right. Brought to you by. This is a shirt. So at the time that we're recording this, you guys are migrating east.
Yes.
We'll call it migration. And even though you've left Washington, you'll be back at some point in the future. We'll just leave it at that.
Definitely. Actually, we're going to be back in March for sure. We have shows lined up over there. So
what's the near future look like for you? What's on the horizon?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's a little bit of a scary time because a lot of the stuff that we had booked for this winter are starting to cancel. So we're trying to figure out what we're doing. We just got asked to open for the Cherry Poppin' Daddies in Montana for New Year's Eve. So we're trying to kind of build a little tour out from Wisconsin because everybody wants to drive from Wisconsin to Great Falls, Montana in the middle of winter. Oh.
In an RV.
Yeah. Oh, we're not taking the RV. There's no way. That thing cannot take ice. We'll take the car. It's fine. We've done that many times. So yeah, we're trying to build out a little bit of a tour there. We have a few more singles we're supposed to be releasing. And then I'm also working on a book that's going to be coming out next year.
Oh yeah. A book on?
It's a melodica book, actually. It's one of the main instruments I play with Sundae Mr. Goessl. Okay. So I can't talk too much about it because it's not public yet, but it's very exciting stuff. Stay tuned.
All right. Stay tuned.
You look like you're going to ask another question.
I always will ask questions. That's just kind of what I do.
Yeah.
I think I asked you this to kind of prep you on it before. I hope I did. Well, it doesn't matter. It's, that's the beauty of the show. If the questions don't
improvised. That's good.
Right. Are you a fan of coffee?
Oh, yes.
So I thought you were going to say, I was hoping you, or anyway. Any coffee recommendations in Washington State that are maybe off the beaten path?
Ooh, I've got a great one. It's in Ballard. Well, it's more like maybe Fremont. It's on the top of the hill. Lighthouse Coffee Roasters. Have you had Lighthouse before?
I have had their coffee somewhere, but I don't remember where. Okay.
Love Lighthouse. They're great. And then I love going to Cafe Fiore in Ballard also, which is great. And I think they have Cafe Vita coffee there.
I think they do.
Which is
Have you ever tried Mabel?
Mabel? No, I don't even know of Mabel.
It's what street is it on? It's just north of Ballard. Oh geez. Anyway, it's a pretty eclectic little coffee shop that serves oh no, I can't even remember what brand of coffee they serve. I should know
you
because
should drink
it was
some coffee and then tell me.
Well, I should. I've had a lot of coffee today, but it's just not working today. It's
decaf. They snuck you decaf.
Somebody snuck decaf it on me. Yeah, no, it's a coffee roaster out of Seattle. The guy used to be a coffee roaster at Starbucks. Oh, he's friends with a good friend of mine. And Mabel's kind of a cool place to go. So when next time you go back into Ballard, look up Mabel, and I think you might enjoy it.
Awesome, I will.
That's my little trick. How about food? Any cool places?
Well,
that somebody might not have heard about before.
Okay, I've got a couple. Let's see, my favorite place to go when I'm in Seattle is Plum Bistro, Capitol Hill. Vegan comfort food. Amazing. Oh my gosh. The best. Have you been there? Oh, you have to go.
I have not. No, I have not.
Just go.
So why should I go? Talk me into going?
Okay. The vegan mac and cheese. That's all I have to say. I know that those are oxymorons. Like you don't really put vegan in with the mac and cheese situation, but this particular mac and cheese is to die for. Amazing. Right. So I highly recommend that place. Everything that I've eaten there has just been the most delicious thing ever. So I love Plum. And then West Seattle, I have to give a shout out to West 5 because they have the world's greatest nachos. Not vegan, by the way.
Okay.
Amazing. And then my favorite Thai place to go to in Ballard is Pestle Rock, which is on Market Street.
Okay. I don't get over to Seattle very often anymore. We left the West Side for a little over 4.5 years ago to move over here to the middle of the state, which I love living in Wenatchee.
Oh, nice.
But Wenatchee does not, how do I want to say this, overwhelm me with high quality restaurants.
Yeah.
So I'm always vicariously living through my guests. Like, where do you go to eat? Please tell me. Please say
how
something.
Did it taste?
Yeah, how was it? and it's, but the fun thing is like when we do get over there, then we typically go try, we try to go try some of these places which I wouldn't like. Plum would not be on my list of places to try.
To put it on your list.
Yeah. But now I will add it and we'll give it a try. So that's always fun. So I always feel like I should have asked some question that I didn't ask. So I'll turn this to you. What should I have asked you that we didn't talk about?
Oh boy.
Nothing?
I don't know. I don't think anything.
All right. So let me give you the last word here. Where can people find your music, listen to it, find out more about you? You have a Patreon account. We didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
How's that working? I'm always curious how Patreon works for people.
It's great. And it's actually one of the things, in addition to the Curbside concerts and the dedication videos, that is helping us a lot continue to be full-time artists and bring, this music to everyone. We have about 82 Patreon members, and it ranges from $2 a month to $100 a month. And we have some pretty awesome perks depending on, what your budget is and how much you want to support us. So the top people, the $100 a month, get a free concert, one a year.
Oh, wow.
So we'll come to your house and do a Curbside concert, or
that's cool.
You can gift it out to someone else.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then there's other levels that you get a dedication video included, and some of them you get song requests, things like that. We're actually just about to do a big campaign for our $20 a month level, where you will get a copy of our newest album, which is the culmination of all of our singles projects ending in March of 2022. So you'll get a copy of that signed by us.
When you say album, do you mean actual vinyl pressed?
Well, we'll see. We'll see if we if we're able to raise enough money to get it pressed. We'll definitely make CDs. People still buy CDs somehow. I don't know who has a CD player out there, but
I don't have one anymore.
I don't either.
I don't.
But
I have thousands of CDs. And I don't have a CD. I mean, they're all burned. I've got them all burned on my hard drives and all that. Yeah. But my car has a CD player. I guess I can listen to my car.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't. Our computer used to. Our computers used to have.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, computers don't have CDs anymore. Yeah. It's like the floppy disk going out of style.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can find out more about me and my husband and our dog, Jackie Osassis, at funandfancymusic.com.
Funandfancymusic.com. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good name.
Thanks. It's easier to spell than Sundae and Mr. Goessl.
So how did we, so you kind of, at the very beginning of this, you kind of, I think, explained it, but let's wrap up by explaining. How did you come up with that? How did that name come together? And one question I didn't ask, that's actually really interesting. So you met at a bar.
Well,
you said he started coming in on Sunday, on your shifts. Okay.
Yes.
When did you guys start playing music together? We kind of glossed over that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's the story succinctly in chronological order. So I saw him perform at the Bon Ton way back in the day. Freelard doesn't exist anymore, and he was performing, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that guy is so good at guitar. This is crazy. I've never seen anyone play guitar like this. A couple months later, I ran into him at a party, And I just tapped him on the shoulder and was like, hey, like, do you want to play jazz with me? And he was like, yeah. And so we started playing music together. He had a studio in Ballard, so I would just go down there and we would just realize that we both really, really loved the music of the 1930s, like very specifically. And so our first 2 albums were only songs from the 1930s. And so we just started practicing that and like gigging once in a while. Like our first gig, shout out to Shadowland in West Seattle, was at Shadowland. And after about 9 months of, just kind of playing a little bit and having like a show or 2, I asked him out and he said yes. So we went on a date, and like our first date, we just kind of knew that we were meant to be because we'd worked together and been friends, and that was it. I moved in 3 months later. We got married not the next year, but pretty soon after that, and just have been doing this ever since. But yeah, he'd come into the bar like while we were practicing. He would just come in every Sunday. He just started calling me Sundae. That's kind of why I asked him out. I'm like, I think he likes me. It turns out he really, really liked me. So it was good.
Okay.
That we went out.
So that's a cool story. Yeah. But the name, you guys just decided to take the nickname and
Sundae.
Add it.
Yeah. And then the Mr. Goessl thing is like I went to New Orleans early on in our relationship by myself, and I found this record there called Mr. Roberts Plays Guitar, and I just was like, I just gave it to him. I was like, I just think it was God, what is his first name now? I can't remember. Anyways, great guitarist, and I thought he would like the record. I'm like, you should be Mr. Goessl. Like, it's classy, and
that's actually cool. That's a cool story.
Yeah. So Sundae Mr. Goessl. There we are.
Well, I appreciate you being on here. This has been fun. And we'll put links to your music down below. I'll get a link to your Patreon account and put that down below so somebody can check that out as well.
Cool.
And I'm looking forward to next time you guys come back through. If you stop in Eastern or Central Washington, make sure you let us know. We do travel to go see music. So, I mean, we'll even travel to the West Side. I mean, let's be fair, but we travel. My wife and I, that's what we do. We both like to go see music. So, and hear music. It's so funny to say we go see music. Like,
yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. The live music experience is different than listening to it on a CD.
Yeah. So, what are those? And where do I play it?
Well, it's a pleasure talking with you, Scott. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thanks so much.
Join us next time for another episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast.